Well, hello, I'm Apostle Tommy Quick, founder and president of Christian Families Against Destructive Decisions, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar. This series of webinars is brought to you from CFAD to coincide with our 2022 Family Conference. It's my pleasure today to be bringing you this particular webinar on the critical mission of fathers. I think that it goes without saying that fathers play and are to play an important role in the development of their families and of their children. And where fathers are missing, there is quite a bit of fallout. Today we have with us Mr. Terris Todd from Michigan, who is going to talk to us on that subject. He currently resides in Michigan with his wife, Karen, of 21 years. They have 3 daughters and are the co-founders of My Brother's Keeper and also the Green Pastures Campus Ministry at Michigan State University. Mr. Todd was an elected official in Calhoun County, as well as appointed in 2020 by the White House to be the executive director of White House initiatives on educational excellence for African Americans. He is an distinguished gentleman, my friend, and it's indeed a pleasure to welcome him today as he teaches us, instructs us, and gives us on information on the critical mission of fathers today. God bless you. Ordained elder he is, Todd. God bless.
Thanks, Apostle Quick and the entire CFAD team. I am absolutely blessed to the Lord for that wonderful introduction. Again, my name is Terris Todd. I am excited to be with you again this year for CFAD 2022. I am from the Heritage Foundation here in Washington, D.C., and I'm excited to be coming to come to the CFAD conference again for the second year in a row. And you guys are doing a wonderful work there, and I could not pass this opportunity up a second time to come back before you and your listening audience, and a true wonderful time in fellowship with the people of God. And so today's session, before I get started, I want to really help people understand that everything that we're attempting to do here at this CFAD conference is to make for sure that the people of God and that our entire nation is provided with a ton of information and solutions to our nation and the world's ills all over. And so I'm excited to come before you today because my session today, coming before you all, is titled The Critical Mission of Fathers. You know, to the point, and I'm thankful that I'm actually addressing this issue because it kind of drove me last year, as I mentioned at last year's conference, to come before you all with the title of my book. As a matter of fact, my book that I had written is titled Just Being There. Just Being There, A Parent's Guide to Raising Children. You can find this out on Amazon.com, or you can go to my personal website, terrisetodd.com. Either get my merchandise titled The God Class, or you can also purchase this book. I would greatly appreciate that. It'll truly be a blessing to you and whoever you may choose to give the book to. But it is, again, it's a tool to help families to rebuild, to regroup, to have a rebirth, if you will. It's a tool to also help families to heal and bring fathers and mothers back to their children and children to their fathers and mothers. And so family is very critical, and I'm excited to be again with this CFAD conference in 2022. Let's go ahead and get started. Again, the title of this session is called The Critical Mission of Fathers. And so with that being said, the objective of this actual session, the objective is for us to make for sure that I reinstate or reinforce the importance that parents or dedicated parents have in raising their children, specifically fathers, okay? Fathers are designed to also protect, they're called to nurture, but they are also called to really guide their children all the way to development into adulthood. And I always like to say another thing too. I always tell people this, that fathers do at least 3 things minimal. Fathers will always affirm, fathers will provide, and fathers will also protect their families, their children, and whatnot. And so I think this topic on fatherhood is very important. I have a ton of data to share with you all, but I have a short amount of time to put this information before you today. So I need you all, if you would please grab a pen and a notepad or your favorite journal And let's take some notes because I have some information to share with you that'll be a blessing to you. And you can use this information, whether you're doing it in a workshop or whether you're doing it at Bible study or whether you're doing it in a sermon or just a public speaking engagement. I want to share some data with you to help build the case on why fathers should be on this critical mission. There are also two foundational scriptures that I want to share with you to kind of tie into today's session. And the first scripture that I want to share with you is found in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 4. And it basically says this. It says, "And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord." Again, you can find that in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 4. And another scripture that I want to share with you today for today's session is found in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8. And the scripture says, "But if any provide not for his own," now get this, "but if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel," or an unbeliever. Notice that. Why has he denied the faith? Because our faith is all about family. And so we want to make for sure that our fathers and even the mothers for that matter, but today we're going to focus on fathers as well, but parents in general, you need to make for sure that your own household comes first. No question about it. That is how God designed it. And that's how we're also going to live our lives, with putting God first, but then also making for sure that our families come before anything else. Because we also know that the family, a good, strong family, is the cornerstone of any civil society. No question about it. It has been said that so goes the family, so goes the world, because again, that is what our faith is tied into. Let's go ahead and get started. I want to share some staggering data with you. So I'm going to be looking at my notes here. I have a ton of notes for today's session. And again, I want you to write this information down where you can use this information, again, in any other session that you may have, a public speaking or a sermon or whatever. But I want you to have this in your own personal notebook. So that way, wherever you go, you'll always have it written down in your own handwriting and in your own notes to be able to share with others. Let's go ahead and get started. The first amount of information that I want to share with you today in today's session of the critical mission of fathers, it says this. It says that about 18.3 million children, that's 1 in 4, live without a father in the home. Imagine that. That's a very sad statistic there. But it also goes on to saying that they are 2 times more likely to drop out of high school than those who have fathers in their homes. So if you think that your children can live without their fathers being present, or the family can do without a father being present, think again. Because again, we'll always see the common thread or theme that fathers, or the presence of a father, is tied to the success in almost every area of a child, in the development of a child. That's what fathers are called to do. Remember, fathers affirm, they provide, and protect. And so notice that. So without a father, your child is more likely to not graduate high school, 2 times more likely to not graduate, mind you, than those who do have fathers. It goes on. Here's some more information. It says that children with fathers, they are 40% less likely to repeat a class and 70% less likely to drop out of school. Imagine that. So when we talk about loving our children, and we want the best for our children than what we've had, because each generation should be improving, right? When we want what's best for our child, we need to make for sure that we emphasize the importance of the presence of a father. Here's some more, and keep track with me. I hope you're taking these notes, because this is very important, because I only have a certain amount of time to share this information with you. It says this also: at-risk youth, go figure this, at-risk youth who have a mentor or a father or some type of a mentor in their life, they are 55% more likely to enroll into college, 40% less likely to use drugs, and 81% more likely to participate in sports or extracurricular activities. In other words, stay busy, because the more busy our children are, the less likely they are to get in trouble and find other things that break the law, quite frankly. 70% of youth that are in state-operated institutions come from fatherless homes. That's a very sad statistic there. 70% that are in state-operated institutions come from fatherless homes, which is 9 times the average. But go figure this, 85% of all youth in prison, right, they come from fatherless homes, which is 20 times the average. Very sad statistic. I'm going to keep going on because, again, I'm pressed for time. Coming from fatherless homes, it says this, in regarding to mental illness, coming from fatherless homes, it says that it can contribute to a child having more emotional problems, such as anxiety, such as depression. Fatherless children may start thinking that they are worth less than other children with fathers. And they may be wondering why their father has chosen to abandon them. Imagine that. So again, as the title of my book, it says just being there, right? So a father, this critical mission of fathers is simply just being there. And I'm going to get back to that toward the end of today's session. But again, keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, because this is very important. We cannot underestimate, we cannot at least portray that the presence of a father is not important. So when you hear a mother say that she does not need a man, but guess what? Your children do. You know, you can say all you want, but for the sake of your child, you do need a man. Because again, that's how God designed it, for a father and a mother to create a balance in a child's life. Children who do not grow up with a father are also more likely to be aggressive and exhibit other externalizing behavioral problems. Remember, again, fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up what? In the nurture and admonition of the Lord. So not being there just simply means that is provoking them to wrath, to carrying out other aggressive behaviors that may land them what? Either incarcerated or possibly 6 feet underground. And God forbid that, oh no, we don't want that to happen. So fathers, or the presence of a father, is more important than you can imagine. So again, I'm building this case today because I want you to understand this critical mission, again, of fathers. Children from father-absent homes are also more likely to become depressed, have suicidal thoughts, anxiety, social withdrawals, and, of course, school absences if they see or hear their parents fighting. So mothers and fathers, be mindful of the fact that when you start speaking ill will, or you start fighting and arguing and going back and forth with each other in front of your own children, you got to understand that impacts their growth and development. That also impacts their mental capacity. And guess what? Your children are now expected to just go to school and be normal. Imagine that. All of the pressure, all of the anxiety, all of the stress that's being placed on that child because the parents are at each other's throat each and every day, arguing and fighting. The damaging impact that it has on your child is just unmeasurable. I mean, it has a tremendous amount of impact. As a matter of fact, it may have a lifetime impact on your child, because some of that information gets lodged into their brains, right? Our brain stores that information. It stores the emotion behind it all. And, the enemy seeks to what? Steal, kill, and destroy. So at the opportune time, that devil comes into your child's life. Once they get older, it could be while they're younger, or once they get older and become adults themselves. But it will remind them, that enemy will remind them of the emotion, of the stress and anxiety that was caused by their parents being at each other's throat, or arguing or fighting in front of them while they were younger. And in some cases, that also becomes the norm, right? In their relationships, and why their relationships will be more vulnerable to fail as well. Let me keep going on. 63% of teens who commit suicide, and 85% of children and teens with behavioral disorders, you guessed it, come from fatherless homes. So again, the presence of a father is very important. Fatherless children, again, they have more difficulties with social adjustments. In other words, intermingling into society, fitting into other social groups. With friends, they struggle a little bit more with having good friends, having good judgment of what a good friend is. They're more likely to report problems, again, of friendship, manifest behavior problems. And of course, some of them get, caught up into bullying to try to mask and hide their own fears, their resentments, and also their anxieties and unhappiness as a result of fathers not being actively engaged. It's very important with this next information that I'm going to share with you is because I want you to understand that the United States, even though we live in the greatest nation known to mankind, the United States is not, some of this data is not very favorable. As a matter of fact, it says that the U.S. is leading the world as far as the highest rate of children living in single parent households. So again, that means more absent fathers. Well, how is all of this happening? Because of bad policy. Remember, I work with the Heritage Foundation, and that's what we are. We are the number one conservative think tank or policy institution in the world. And so we deal with good policy. We deal with conservative policy. And so it's been because of bad policy over the decades that has caused for families to be destroyed. That's why elections matter. They do. And so I want to share this information with you because you need to understand that sometimes bad policy is the cause of some of our social ills. Because now what's happening is, like I just read, that the United States is leading with the highest rate of single parent homes. But keep in mind, because of bad policy, we incentivize that behavior. It's almost as if we reward people for failing. That's exactly what it is. And that's been the spirit of it all. And so again, this is another reason why our fathers should be on this critical mission of what? Just being there. Being actively engaged in your children's life. So your children have a much better chance at being successful in life as life goes on for them because their father was actively engaged. And mother, of course. Here's some more information for you. There was a report that was published by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and it says that children of married biological parents or even adoptive parents, if you will, children who are born or raised in married households with their biological parents or even adoptive parents, it says that they are more healthier, they have fewer definite or severe emotional or behavioral difficulties, and are less likely to grow up, catch this, they're less likely to grow up in poverty. This is according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. This is information, ladies and gentlemen, that I want to share with you in today's session. So if you don't think that fathers or the critical mission of fathers is important, think again. Who wants their children to be raised in poverty? Well, guess what? If you are there, if you are actively engaged in your children's lives, they are more likely to be even financially successful. They're less likely to be in poverty. And we all want the best for our children, of course. The majority of parents in the world want what's best for their children. We want to see our children thrive and be successful in life, but we play a huge part in them being able to accomplish that. And so, moving right along, when Generation Y, which are millennials, when they were actually surveyed, it said here, when they were surveyed back in elementary school, remember Gen Y are those who were born between the years of 1981 and 1996. When they were surveyed back in elementary school, it said that those who were living with their fathers in the homes, it said that they scored better on 21 of 27 social competence measures. 21 out of 27. They scored better than those who did not have their fathers intact. And you say you don't need a man? Think again. Your children do. When children who grow up without fathers, it says here also that they're more likely to become single mothers or absent dads themselves. So it's constantly repeating the cycle. When they don't have their dads in their lives, they're more likely to use drugs as well. and have low academic achievement and are less likely to believe in marriage or have successful marriages themselves. Now, go figure this. I want to share this with you. It also says this. Women are also, watch this, women, the mothers, they are also 6 times more likely to get sole custody of their children after separating from the fathers. Not joint custody, but sole custody. Now, we ask the question, well, what happened to this equality and this equity kind of a thing? Well, hopefully and prayerfully that good women, good mothers out there know the significance and the importance of their fathers being in their lives. So yes, they may be 6 times more likely to obtain sole custody of their children, but I would hope and pray that you can set your differences aside for the sake of your child being more likely to be successful in life, because you understand that they cannot accomplish that mostly without their fathers. And so hopefully you will actually advocate for the father to be engaged or actively engaged in their children's lives. That is, of course, if those fathers are not causing great harm or any abuse toward the child. But if things were going quite well while he was there or while you both were together, then I will hope and pray that for the continuance of care for your children, that you would fight to make for sure that the father is still actively engaged and involved in your child's life. And so we need to be adults. We need to make for sure that we understand and by, what being mature is all about, and that those children did not come here by themselves. It took 2 parents to get them here. And so it's going to take 2 parents as the plan of God to also make for sure that they grow into adulthood, being successful adults as well and leading successful lives. Here's some more information for you as well. Statistics show that when a nation legalizes abortion, now go figure this, the rate of fatherlessness doesn't go down, it actually skyrockets. And it says here that men have no legal say in what happens during an unplanned pregnancy. Men have no legal say. But check this out. So in 2005, there was a study of post-abortive men, and it said that they found that 52% experience regret when they think about past abortions. 52%. For every 2 children that are born into fatherless homes, this is in the state of Massachusetts, all right? For every 2 children born into fatherless homes, it says that 1 is aborted. Imagine that. 80% of abortions in Massachusetts, however, 80% are children whose fathers and mothers are not married. 80%. So if we want to eliminate and destroy abortion, now we're celebrating because we know the Roe v. Wade thing was overturned by the Supreme Court, but all that did is send authority back to the states for the states to decide where it's closer to the people. A government closest to the people is best, right? So that's all it did. But if we truly want to eliminate or make abortion unthinkable, then the sole plan or the goal or the mission that our fathers should be on, this critical mission that they should be on, is seeking to marry the mother of their child. Seeking to marry. So marriage is very important. Why? Because we know that mothers are least likely to abort their children when they're with the father. Isn't that wonderful? So again, moving right along, in Springfield, Massachusetts, for example. So now this is some interesting data here. In Springfield alone, it says that 70% of newborns who come home from the hospital, 70%, just in Springfield, Massachusetts alone, 70% of them come home without a father in that home. So imagine that. So all of the data that I'm sharing with you, the likelihood of them being depressed, the likelihood of them having anxiety, the likelihood of them being able to detach themselves from society alone, the likelihood of them having trouble with having good friendships, and the list goes on and on. The likelihood of them failing in school or dropping out in school, using drugs, committing crimes, having out of wedlock, children, pregnancies, and so on. Imagine that. 70% in Springfield, Massachusetts are going to be more likely to fall into one of those categories. 70%. Very sad. So anyway, let me move right along. It says again, a study that was done. Now go figure this. A study that was done by Jamaican Southern Regional Health Authority. It said that they presented this information at the International Conference on Human Rights, and it says this. It said that it showed that fatherlessness increases. Watch this now. Fatherlessness increases a daughter's vulnerability to rape and sexual abuse. You ready for this? By 900%. Fatherlessness. So our daughters are more likely to experience rape or sexual abuse by 900%. They're 900% more likely to experience rape or sex abuse because they did not have their fathers in their lives. And you mothers, you say, what? You don't need a man? Guess what? Your children do. So this critical mission of fathers should be what? Just to be there. Why? Because just being there makes all the difference in the world. And that's what I want to get across to you all who are watching this session today. So please take note of that. In addition, girls growing up with fatherless homes are also 164 times more likely to become pregnant before marriage and 92% more likely to divorce after they marry. Imagine that. So even when our daughters are growing up, being raised in fatherless homes or without their fathers, 64% more likely to do what? To become pregnant before marriage, and 92% more likely to divorce after they marry. Ladies and gentlemen, these statistics are very alarming, and the critical mission of fathers should be just that. And the list goes on, and I could have actually provided you with all of these sources that I've gotten, but it was about 50 of them. So all of the information that I share with you today has been pulled from about 50 other sources, and I want to give credit where credit's due. I have the honor of serving on an advisory board, as a matter of fact, the Fatherhood Initiative, which is led by Mr. Jack Brewer, a former NFL player. He's going nationwide with this Fatherhood Initiative, and again, I'm blessed of the Lord to sit on his Fatherhood Initiative to provide advice to the board on what direction we need to go. We're seeing a lot of success on the Fatherhood Initiative. He hails out of the great state of Florida. We're seeing some ground being gained there from a policy standpoint. But Jack Brewer's actually taken this nationwide, and so again, I'm blessed and honored to be a part of this movement for encouraging fatherhood and fathers being actively engaged, as well as fatherhood or father-like or male mentors, having some kind of father figure in our children's lives, because again, just being there makes all the difference in the world. Hey, that is my time. I hope and pray that you got something out of this session. Again, the title of this session is The Critical Mission of Fathers. When you say that you don't need a man, guess what? I'll leave you with this. Your children do, and it's a matter of life and death. Children need both their fathers and mothers. Again, fathers, what? Provoke not your children to wrath, but to bring them up in the nurture and what? Admonition of the Lord. And you must obviously always provide for your own household first, because if you deny that, if you refuse to provide for your own children and your own household first, the scripture says that you have denied the faith and is worse than an infidel or an unbeliever. Let that not be so named amongst you. Again, Apostle Quick and CFAT family, thank you again for allowing me to provide information in this session. And I look forward to joining you all again for the CFAT conference. Again, happy CFAT conference 2022. I look forward to seeing you in the sanctuary. God bless you all.